Welcome to the Explainer. We're diving into something pretty wild today, a radical idea that says both Buddhism and modern physics have, well, gotten it all wrong. The source material we're looking at argues that the simple, original truths of both have been buried under layers of complex ritual and even more complex math. So let's dig in and see what they're talking about. So, right out of the gate, the source material throws a real curveball at us. I mean, we all think of Buddhism as this ancient religion with all these different schools of thought, right? But what if that's all a much more recent invention? What if, way back at the beginning, there was only one single teaching? And that brings us to the first major part of this whole argument, the claim that the authentic, original teachings of the Buddha, this one unified doctrine, have been lost, just buried under centuries of division and ritualism. And here's where it gets really specific. On the left, you've got the schools we all know, or have at least heard of: Theravada, Mahayana, Zen. But our source claims these are all later developments. The original teaching, it says, was just one thing: Buddhasasana, which literally means the doctrine of the Buddha. Simple as that. This quote really gets to the heart of it. The argument is that the original path was all about one thing: emancipation, freedom, and everything else, all the different schools, the elaborate rituals, according to this view, they're just distractions from that one simple, sweet goal. So you might be asking, how do you even begin to separate the original stuff from the later additions? Well, the source is very specific here. It points to what are called the 5 Nikayas as the authentic, oldest record of what the Buddha actually taught. But then it labels other important texts, like the Abhidhamma and the Vinaya, as later sectarian works. And it really takes aim at modern Zen, arguing it's been totally corrupted. The source even says the word Zen comes from a Pali word for meditative bliss, but that modern Zen has completely lost sight of that original liberating goal. Now, this idea of a lost doctrine doesn't just stop with the texts. It actually changes how we're supposed to look at the Buddha himself. The source suggests that the story we all think we know is really a mix of history and allegory, and it's all designed to point to a much deeper truth. All right, so this is the story most of us probably know, laid out step by step. You've got the prince, Siddhartha, totally shielded from any kind of suffering. Then he sees the real world, aging, sickness, death, and it shatters his reality. He tries extreme paths, rejects them, and then finally, all by himself, he achieves enlightenment. That's the story we've been told. But here's where our source says, wait, look closer. It points out that the names of the Buddha's parents can actually be translated as holy insemination and magic womb, holy godlike birth. So the question it raises is a big one. Were these their actual names? Or is this whole story an allegory for the Buddhist spiritual awakening, a kind of rebirth into enlightenment itself? Okay, hold on, because this next part is, wow. It's probably the most shocking claim in the whole source. It completely challenges the story of the Buddha's peaceful death. Instead, it alleges he was actually murdered as part of a conspiracy. This just hammers home that central narrative, a pure teaching being corrupted and attacked, maybe right from the very beginning. Now, just when you think you've got a handle on this, the source takes a massive, unexpected turn. It applies this exact same framework, this idea of a lost, simple truth, to a completely different field, modern physics. And this quote from Nikola Tesla really sets the tone perfectly. The argument here is that modern physics, just like modern Buddhism, has gotten lost in all these complex abstractions that don't really reflect reality. As Tesla puts it, it's chosen deep thought over clear thought. So what is this lost doctrine of physics? Well, it all centers on a concept called dielectricity. The best way to think about it is like the perfectly still surface of a pond. It's not moving, but it holds all the potential for movement. According to this source, dielectricity is that underlying reality, the still ether from which everything we actually see, like magnetism and gravity, emerges, kind of like ripples on that pond. It's the unmoved mover. And when you put the two worldviews side by side, you can really see just how radical this is. Where mainstream physics talks about a zoo of particles like electrons and gluons, the source calls them unreal abstractions. Where Einstein saw gravity as curved spacetime, this doctrine sees a centripetal dielectric field. Even empty space isn't empty, it's full of this ether potential. And here's a key one. Magnetism isn't an attractive force at all, but a type of radiation, just a byproduct of dielectricity. I know this all sounds super abstract, so the source gives us a concrete physical example, the element bismuth. Now, bismuth is known for being the most diamagnetic element, which means it really resists magnetic fields. The source argues this is proof of its high dielectric inertia. It even claims you can literally see this force in bismuth's unique crystal structure, which grows in these incredible inside-out anti-cube shapes. It's like a physical representation of a counterspatial force. Okay, so let's pull back for a second. We've got these two parallel stories of lost knowledge, one in religion, one in science. This final part is where they crash together into one grand, overarching argument about, well, how we understand anything at all. And this is the real kicker. The source isn't just taking a shot at one thing. It's aiming at our entire way of knowing things. It targets Zen rituals, academic theories about history, the fantastical ideas in quantum mechanics and relativity, all with the same basic argument. We've started treating our models, our maps of reality, as if they are more real than the territory itself. The source uses this really powerful analogy to explain its point. It's kind of like Plato's cave. It suggests that most of us are like people who've spent their entire lives with their backs to a light bulb, just staring at the shadows on the wall. We get really good at analyzing the shadows, but we completely forget about the light source that's creating them. In this view, both the original Buddha and the true principles of physics are trying to get us to turn around and look at the light. And this brings us right to the unified theory at the very heart of the source material. It's really just one story, told twice. In religion, a simple, direct path to liberation was fractured into a million complex rituals. And in science, a clear, tangible, ether-based physics was replaced by abstract math that's become almost impossible to actually picture in your mind. Ultimately, the source we've walked through today does more than just tell a story. It throws down a challenge to the very foundations of what we think we know. It wants to replace accepted history in science with this narrative of lost truths, and that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. If our foundational systems for understanding the world are really that flawed, where on earth do we even begin?